The day started like any other, with the usual rush to get ready for work and drop my daughter off at school. But as I sat down at my desk, surrounded by fabric samples and design sketches, my phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number, which I almost ignored, thinking it might be another telemarketer. But something urged me to answer. "Is this Jenna?" a hesitant voice asked. "Yes, speaking." "I'm sorry to inform you there's been an accident. Your parents." The voice trailed off, but I didn't need to hear the rest to know my world had just crumbled. I remember asking for details, my voice sounding so distant, as if someone else was speaking. They were on their way to a quaint little town, a monthly tradition they had. Their car had veered off the road and tumbled down a steep embankment. It was a passerby who called it in, but by then it was too late. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen, the phone slipping from my grasp. My mind was a blur, images of my parents flashing before my eyes, their laughter, their love for each other, and their unwavering support for me. It all seemed so distant now. I managed to leave work early, driven by a need to share this unbearable pain with someone who would understand. Derek was the first person who came to mind. My husband, my partner, should have been my solace in such a moment. "Derek, I need you," I said, my voice breaking as I called him. His response was immediate, but not what I expected. "Jenna, what's wrong? I'm in the middle of something." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "It's my parents. They were in an accident. They're gone, Derek, both of them." There was a pause, and for a moment I hoped for words of comfort, a sliver of empathy, but what came was a cold dismissal. "Is that all? Jenna, I'm on a tight schedule here. Can't this wait?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Wait. Derek, my parents are dead. How can you be so heartless?" Another pause, then a sigh. "Look, I'm sorry about your parents, but you know how important this project is. I can't just drop everything. You'll have to handle this on your own." My hands were shaking, tears streaming down my face. "I thought you would care. I thought you would be here for me." "Jenna, we all have our crosses to bear. I'm sure you'll manage. Just don't make this harder than it has to be." The line went dead. The silence that followed was deafening. I was alone, truly alone. The realization hit me hard. The man I had married, the father of my child, was a stranger to me now. I thought back to the days when Derek would have dropped everything to be by my side. Where had that man gone? How had our love turned so cold and distant? But I had no time to dwell on these questions. I had a funeral to plan, relatives to inform, and a daughter to protect from the harsh reality that her grandparents were gone. As I set about these tasks, a resolve began to form within me. Derek's indifference, his blatant disregard for my feelings, had opened my eyes. I couldn't depend on him, not anymore. This tragedy had not only taken my parents, but had also stripped away any illusions I had about my marriage. It was a painful realization, but one that I could not ignore. The road ahead would be difficult, but I knew one thing for certain. I had to find the strength to move forward, for my sake and for my daughter's. The days leading up to the funeral were a blur. Between making arrangements and comforting my daughter, Lily, I had little time to process my own grief. Derek's absence was palpable, his indifference a constant weight on my heart. But it was during these moments of solitude that I found unexpected strength. My mother-in-law, Elaine, with whom we shared our home, was of no comfort. Her reaction to the news was as cold as Derek's. "So both gone at once? Must have been quite the shock," she remarked dryly, not even looking up from her magazine. I nodded, barely able to speak. "Yes, it's been hard." Elaine finally glanced at me, her gaze calculating. "Well, at least there's a silver lining with the insurance money, right? We could use a bit of good news around here." I stared at her, incredulous. "Elaine, my parents just died. How can you think about money at a time like this?" She shrugged, her interest already waning. "Money makes the world go round, dear. Best to look on the bright side." The lack of empathy stunned me. I had known Elaine to be difficult, but her callousness in the face of my tragedy was a new low. It was clear I was alone in my grief. The day of the funeral arrived, a somber affair attended by close family and friends. The absence of my husband was noted by many, his excuses of work commitments doing little to mask his apathy. It was a slap in the face, a public display of his disregard for our family. After the service, as I stood by the graveside, my cousin approached me, her expression a mix of concern and anger. "I can't believe Derek didn't show up. How could he be so heartless?" I shook my head, fighting back tears. "He says he's too busy with work." "Too busy for his wife's parents' funeral? That's not just busy, Jenna. That's cruel." Her words echoed my thoughts, amplifying the hurt and betrayal I felt. Derek's actions, or lack thereof, were unforgivable. It was a realization that cut deep, severing what little connection remained between us. In the following days, Derek's indifference became more apparent. Calls went unanswered, and when he did deign to speak to me, his words were empty, devoid of warmth or concern. "It's done then? The funeral and everything?" he asked during one such call, his tone casual, as if inquiring about the weather. "Yes, it's done," I replied, my voice cold. Good. Let's move on then. No point dwelling on it." His words were like a knife to my heart. Move on? How could I move on when every day was a struggle, a painful reminder of the loss I had suffered? It was in that moment that I made a decision. I could no longer stay with a man who saw my parents' death as nothing more than an inconvenience, a man who lacked the basic decency to support his wife in her time of need. The thought of divorce had crossed my mind before, but I had always pushed it aside, afraid of the implications for Lily. But now, staying seemed far worse than leaving. Derek had shown his true colors, and they were darker than I could have ever imagined. As I hung up the phone, a sense of clarity settled over me. The road ahead would be difficult, fraught with challenges and uncertainties, but I was determined to face them head-on. For my sake, for Lily's, and for the memory of my parents, I would start anew. Derek had made his choice, and now I was making mine. In the days that followed my declaration, the atmosphere at home became unbearable. Derek's presence, once a source of comfort, now felt like a looming storm, always on the verge of erupting. It was during one of these tense evenings that I decided to confront him about his affair, armed with undeniable proof and a resolve made of steel. "Derek, we need to talk. Now," I said, my voice steady despite the racing of my heart. He looked up from his phone, annoyance etched on his face. "What is it this time, Jenna?" "It's about us, or rather the end of us. I know about the affair, Derek." For a moment there was silence, the kind that suffocates. Then Derek laughed, a sound so devoid of humor it sent chills down my spine. "Affair? What are you talking about, Jenna? You're delusional." I held up the photographs, the ones that showed him with her, their intimacy undeniable. "Am I? Then explain these." His face paled as he looked at the images, the realization that his secret was out dawning on him. "Where did you get these?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is that you've been lying to me, to us, all those late nights, the business trips. It was all her, wasn't it?" Derek stood up, the mask of indifference slipping. "Jenna, listen to me. It's not what it looks like." "Not what it looks like? How can you even say that? You've been cheating on me, Derek, on your family. How could you?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration visible in every line of his body. "It was a mistake, okay? It meant nothing. It was just, it got out of hand." "A mistake? Is that supposed to make it all okay? You've destroyed our family over a mistake?" Derek moved closer, desperation in his eyes. "Jenna, please, we can fix this. I'll end it with her. We can go to counseling, do whatever it takes. Please, don't throw away what we have." What we have. The words echoed in my mind, a cruel reminder of the love that had turned into betrayal. "Derek, there's nothing left to save. You threw it all away the moment you decided to be with her. I want a divorce, and I'm taking Lily with me." His demeanor changed then, from pleading to angry. "You can't do that, Jenna. I won't let you take my daughter away from me." "Your daughter? When was the last time you even spent time with her?" "No, Derek, I'm going to make sure she's safe and loved, something you obviously can't provide." Derek's anger flared, his voice rising. "You think you can just take everything from me? You'll regret this, Jenna. I'll make sure of it." Regret? The only regret I had was not seeing Derek for who he really was sooner. As I walked away from him, from the wreckage of our marriage, I knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. But for the first time, I felt truly free, ready to face whatever came next, with my head held high and my daughter by my side. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready to fight for a better future, one where betrayal and indifference had no place. The following weeks were a whirlwind of legal preparations and emotional turmoil. Despite Derek's threats and attempts to intimidate me, I pressed forward with the divorce proceedings. It was during one particularly grueling day that I received a call from my lawyer, a call that would shift the balance of power in my favor. "Jenna, we've uncovered something that could significantly impact your case," my lawyer began, her voice tinged with a mix of surprise and satisfaction. "What is it?" I asked, bracing myself for the worst. "It's about Derek's financials. It appears he's been funneling money into a separate account, one that's linked to the woman he's been seeing. We can use this to prove financial misconduct." The news hit me like a bolt of lightning. Not only had Derek betrayed our family emotionally, but he had also been draining our resources, jeopardizing our financial security for his affair. "Can we take action against this?" I asked, my mind racing with the implications. "Absolutely. This strengthens your case for both the divorce settlement and custody of Lily. We'll make sure the court sees the full extent of his actions." Armed with this new information, I confronted Derek once again. This time, I had the upper hand, and I was determined to use it to protect myself and Lily. "Derek, did you really think you could hide your financial deceit from me? From the courts?" I asked, watching as he struggled to maintain his composure. "What are you talking about, Jenna?" he replied, attempting to feign ignorance. "Don't play dumb with me, Derek. I know about the money you've been siphoning off for your affair. It's over. You've lost." The color drained from his face as the realization set in. For the first time I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes, fear of losing everything he had taken for granted. "You can't prove anything," he stammered, but his voice lacked conviction. "Oh, but I can, and I will. I'm going to make sure you pay for what you've done, not just to me, but to Lily. But I see you've endangered her future for your selfish desires." Derek's demeanor shifted from fear to anger, a dangerous glint appearing in his eyes. "You'll regret this, Jenna. I'll make sure you get nothing." But his threats no longer held any power over me. I had the truth on my side, and I was no longer the woman he thought he could control and intimidate. "No, Derek, it's you who will regret it. I'm going to expose you for the liar and cheat you are, and when this is over, Lily and I will be free of you and your deceit." As I ended the conversation, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. For too long I had lived in Derek's shadow, subjected to his lies and manipulation, but now the tables had turned. I was ready to fight back, to reclaim my life and secure a safe and happy future for Lily and myself. The battle was far from over, but for the first time I felt confident in my ability to win. The courtroom was charged with tension as Derek and I faced off, surrounded by our respective legal teams. The proceedings had been grueling, but today was different. Today the focus was on Derek's financial deceit and his affair, the evidence laid bare for all to see. "Mr. Thompson, can you explain the purpose of the separate account to which you've been funneling funds from the joint account you share with your wife?" the judge asked, his tone indicating he'd heard enough excuses. Derek cleared his throat, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. "Your Honor, it was for investment purposes. It has nothing to do with the allegations my wife has made." "Investment purposes?" my lawyer interjected, her voice dripping with skepticism. "Is that why there are multiple transactions linking this account to a Miss Rachel Foster, the woman Mr. Thompson has been having an affair with?" The courtroom fell silent, the weight of the accusation hanging in the air. Derek's lawyer attempted to intervene, but the judge waved him off, his gaze still fixed on Derek. "And Mr. Thompson, how do you respond to the charge of financial misconduct, specifically the misuse of marital funds for the benefit of your affair?" Derek's response was a mumbled denial, but it was clear to everyone in the room that his defenses were crumbling. The judge leaned forward, his verdict ready. "Given the evidence presented, it's evident that Mr. Thompson has engaged in financial misconduct, jeopardizing not only the marital assets, but also the financial security of his daughter. This will be taken into consideration in the final settlement." As the judge announced the decision, favoring me significantly in both the financial settlement and custody of Lily, Derek's face was a mask of defeat, but it was his whispered words meant only for me that marked his true downfall. "You've won, Jenna. Are you happy now?" I met his gaze, my response calm and resolute. This was never about winning, Derek. It was about doing what's right for Lily. You brought this on yourself. The courtroom emptied, leaving Derek to grapple with the consequences of his actions. But the victory was bittersweet. While I had secured a future for Lily and myself, the path to get here had been fraught with pain and betrayal. In the days that followed, the fallout from the trial became apparent. Derek's professional reputation suffered greatly, his misconduct in both his personal and financial dealings a public spectacle. Rumors swirled, and soon he found himself ostracized, his career in tatters. As for me, the fight had taken its toll, but I emerged stronger, more determined. With the divorce finalized and Lily's future secured, I could finally begin to rebuild our lives. Derek's downfall was a testament to the consequences of his actions, a reminder that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way to the surface. The journey had been arduous, filled with challenges and heartache, but as I looked to the future, I knew that Lily and I were on the path to healing. Derek's shadow no longer loomed over us, his presence in our lives reduced to a distant memory. We were free to move forward to create a new life built on love, respect, and honesty, and that was the greatest victory of all. The dust had settled on the courtroom battles, and with Derek's defeat, a new day dawned for Lily and me. Our first morning in our new home was filled with sunlight, casting a warm glow over what was a fresh start. But it wasn't just the location that had changed. It was the air around us, now free of the tension that had once suffocated us. As I unpacked a box in the kitchen, Lily came bouncing in, her laughter a melody that had been missing for too long. "Mom, look, the backyard is huge. Can we get a dog now?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I smiled, the idea taking root. "You know, that's a wonderful idea. We'll need a bit of company in this big place." Her hug was tight, filled with a happiness that radiated from her. "I'm going to name him Buddy." The simplicity of the moment, of planning for a pet, felt like a luxury after the turmoil we'd endured. It was in these small, peaceful instances that I found profound relief and hope for the future. Later that day, I sat down at my new desk, the view from the window overseeing the sprawling backyard where Lily was already imagining adventures with Buddy. It was time to refocus on my career, to rebuild not just our personal lives, but also the professional success I had put on hold. As I drafted emails and planned projects, my phone rang. It was a call from an old colleague, offering congratulations and a proposal for a new, exciting project. The tide had turned, and where there had once been uncertainty, opportunities were now opening up. "Jenna, we've all heard about your strength and determination. It's inspiring, and honestly, we need someone like you to lead this project," my colleague explained, her words sincere. Accepting the offer felt like the final piece of the puzzle clicking into place. My career, which had once taken a back seat to marital strife, was now a source of strength and independence. In the evening, as Lily and I sat on our new porch, watching the sunset, I realized that this was what true freedom felt like. We had escaped the shadows and found light in a place we could call our own. "Mom, are you okay? You look a little sad," Lily observed, her young face etched with concern. I pulled her close, my heart full. "I'm more than okay, Lily. I'm happy. We've made it through the storm, and now we're here together, and that's all that matters." Our conversation drifted to plans for the house, for Buddy, and all the adventures we would have. It was a simple, beautiful future we were building, one day at a time. Derek's downfall had been a necessary end, a closure to a chapter that had brought us nothing but pain. But in its wake, we found strength and a bond that only grew stronger. As the night drew in and Lily's laughter filled our new home, I knew that we had not just survived, we had triumphed. Our fresh start was more than a new beginning. It was a testament to resilience, to the power of love over betrayal. And as I looked at Lily, her face alight with joy and excitement for the future, I was reminded of the greatest truth of all. In the end, love